A big welcome to day 10 of Control the Controllables live at Wimbledon. And wow, we have our first semi finalist since 2001 coming through as a wild card in Arthur Ferry, the British tennis player, taking out Kaboli earlier today. And I think we're going to talk a lot about him. He has been the player of the tournament so far. If we go through the major moments of the day in a second, brought to you today by Novellus. We will have Lee Childs coming on later today. And Lee Childs, he's going to talk about his story from Wimbledon, which is the one you want to hear, really, because he back many years ago played against a young Rafael Nadal in the second round at Wimbledon after beating Davydenko in the first round. So we're going to get into that story. We're going to have the sort of tennis major moments of the day. We'll have the tennis athlete player of the day, and then your chance to ask the Dear Dan questions that I know have been coming in. If you are on the chat, then please send those questions in as well. Apologies, we're a little bit later today. We had an exciting day as Gabby Dabrowski and Louisa Stefani moved into the semi-finals of the women's doubles, and we had a team dinner. And I said I'd stick to the 9 o'clock, but I'm sorry I put the team before all of you guys. So apologies a little bit later. For some of you, maybe that works well. You've got the kids to bed. You can sit down and you can hear about the day that's happened at Wimbledon. And that takes us to our first major moment of the day, brought to you by Sort of Tennis Academy. Arthur Ferry beat Flavio Caboli 6-4, 7-6, 6-love in 2 hours, 14 minutes on centre court. Only the fifth British man to reach a Wimbledon semi-final in the Open era after Andy Murray, Tim Henman, Cameron Norrie and Roger Taylor. Only the second wildcard in the Open era since Goran Ivanisevic in 2001 to reach the semi-finals. The lowest ranked men's singles semi-finalist since Ivanisevic in 2001. I love this stat because everyone's talking about the height of Arthur Ferry, and he won 22 of 29 points. And I think that's one of the things a lot of people will be a little bit surprised at actually when they watch Arthur players, is how forward thinking he is and how much he's coming forward. He broke Caboli 3 times in the third set, and he moves up in the live rankings to world number 36. And I've just been with his agent, a good friend of mine, Nathan Rooney, and a big shout out to Nathan and all of the team. And, you know, we're just saying, like, one of the amazing things about our sport is how your life can change in a week or two. You know, we've seen it happen with Marcus Willis at Wimbledon, you know, that run through qualies to playing Roger Federer in the second round. We spoke to Danny Sapsford the other day, went from qualies, and then ended up playing Pete Sampras in the third round. The hope it gives you, and you can have these just incredible stories that happen. And that's my plea, that we don't change this sport too much. You know, the entrepreneurial ways, the ability to give people hope, the ability to give people the opportunity to really put together just incredible weeks or week that can completely turn it on its head. And now Arthur Ferry is going to have the whole of Great Britain knows him. He's going to be at least 36 in the world, close to being seeded in Grand Slams. He's £900,000 richer, at least. Look, he's still got a semi-final to play, and all of this has happened in the space of 7 or 8 days. So that is absolutely the story that we have to start with this evening. We've then got Alexander Zverev, and has that something changed? Has he, now that he's won his first Grand Slam in Roland Garros, has that now something shifted in his mind? You know, that he's now playing with the freedom. We know that he did struggle with Fritz. He'd lost 7 times in a row to Taylor Fritz. But if you saw the match today, it was very one-sided. You know, straight set victory. Never really looked in doubt. Maybe Alexander Zverev, now the floodgates have opened. You know, this is now just what he does. You know, it's taken him a long time to win his first Grand Slam. But He will play Arthur Ferry on Friday. On the women's draw, as we move into, we had a couple of more quarterfinal matches today. And again, if anyone had said Marta Kostyuk and Linda Noskova would play in the semi-finals of Wimbledon 12 months ago, I think people would have said, yeah, right. But I don't think it's a massive surprise the way that their form is right now. Marta Kostyuk has just got it going on. She beat Paolini 3-2 in just over an hour, winning 90% of first serve points, 0 break points faced. It's her first ever Wimbledon semi-final. And she looks great. She looks strong. She looks in a really good place mentally, physically. And she will play the number 9 seed, Linda Noskova, who beat the 25th seed, Elisa Mertens, 6-3, 7-5. It's also her first ever Wimbledon semi-final. She's only 21 years old and is the youngest Wimbledon semi-finalist since 2010. We forget how young Noskova is. And this is going to be, an absolute cracker. One of them is going to get to go through to their first Wimbledon final, and that match will be happening tomorrow. So let's see how that unfolds. On the doubles side, we saw the British pair, last year's champions on the men's side, Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool, went out to Aravello and Pavic, 6-2, 7-6. Cash's serve was broken twice, not quite serving like he was 12 months ago. And they will now play against Kravitz and Poots. So we've still got some of the high seeds, but some of the teams that we're expecting to see on the men's side, and they will play on the semi-final. And we know that now the Brits only have Henry Patton and the Finnish Harri Heliavaara as they play the alternates Kokkinakis and Kovacevic in tomorrow's semi-final. And actually, a shout out to Aravello, who will also be playing in the mixed doubles final tomorrow with Elena Ostapenko against Storm Hunter and Mark Polmans as well. If Patton was to win, Patton Heliavaara, that would be the 4th consecutive British men's doubles champions at Wimbledon. On the women's doubles side, I say this with a big smile on my face because the number 2 seeds, Gabriela Dabrowski and Louisa Stefani, 1-6, 1-6-2 today. Clinical performance, their 3rd consecutive Grand Slam semi-final of 2026, and putting in a great year. They will next play against Ayama from Japan and Liang from Taipei in the semi-finals, who made the semi-finals of Roland Garros in what promises to be a cracking match on Friday. So watch out for that, and all the messages we're getting on that as well. Big thank you to everyone for the support. It's kind of cool, and I just met up, like I said, with Nathan Rooney earlier, a good friend of mine, and we had a little reminisce going back to all those years ago. We lived together in Birmingham. As we were kind of starting our tennis coaching careers. He's gone on to become an agent, and kind of cool that we're both going to be involved with these amazing players in a semi-final on Friday. Our tennis athlete player of the day, and sorry guys, but it's the 3rd time he's won, but how can't he? Arthur Ferry, straight sets victory over Kabuli, just doing the Roy of the Rovers story. The story continues of Arthur Ferry. I think he has to be the player of the day. And what he said afterwards when he was speaking to the press that are obviously all over him right now, it just seems to be getting better and better every match. I can't believe it. Incredible. Playing on centre court for the 2nd time and a 2nd win. I played Flavia earlier this year and I beat him in Australia, which was a boost of confidence, so I knew I could do it. Even though it's my first time in the quarterfinals, and he has done it in a Grand Slam, that gave me a little boost of confidence. I just kept going. I was nervous beforehand, but just kept on going to the finish line. Now, he hit his forehand incredibly well today. That is a shot that, it's not that it's a bad shot, but just, you could see Kabuli wanted to get after the forehand and was looking at his box almost saying, yeah, good plan to hit to his forehand, as he kind of spanked another forehand winner. He seems full of confidence. The question I'm asking you guys is, can he beat Alexander Zverev on Friday? It's a big ask, when you put that line up, Novak Djokovic, Yannick Sinner, Alexander Zverev, and Arthur Ferry. Who would have picked that going into this year's Wimbledon? Now, next, we have our guest of the day. Hope you guys have been enjoying everyone coming in. I think it's a big effort for these guys to give their time up. And this is a good friend of mine. We used to live together at the National Tennis School. Someone who had a brilliant junior career, was world junior #1 in doubles, under-18 European champion in singles, retired from playing tennis back in 2007, but back in 2003, he received a wild card into Wimbledon when he was age 20, and he beat Nikolai Davydenko, and then went on to lose to a 17-year-old Rafael Nadal. And, that's what I want to pick his brains about. I want to find out how that was, playing Nadal at Wimbledon at that age. Did he know how good he was going to be, go on to be? And that's the brains that we want to pick. And then once we finish with Lee, we will move on to our Dear Dan questions. A little reminder that you can jump in on the chat if you have any extra questions to ask. And as ever, we're here to help with that as well. But as I said, Lee Childs is going to appear any second, unless he's having technical issues, which everyone seems to be having this week. So I'm just going to give it a little 15-20 seconds and see if he turns up. If not, we'll jump into Dear Dan. I know he's here, so it's obviously a technical issue. And then we can jump in to the Dear Dan questions if he's not here, and we'll pick up with him afterwards. He's read my message, but he's not coming through yet. Okay, I'll jump in with the Dear Dan questions. He's maybe struggling to get online. How much time, this is from Sophie Lewis, how much time do you have to watch the other matches at each tournament when you're there with your doubles teams? I would say I rarely watch a tennis match, certainly in terms of really watch a tennis match, unless it's for work reasons, so unless I'm really looking to scout. And here he is. I'm going to get back to that question, Sophie. Lee Childs, a big welcome to Control the Controllables. How are you doing?
Good evening, Dan. How are you? Yeah, good.
I put my trust in you. The 10th guest that I've had.
Yeah.
And I thought, you're going to be the first one that's actually going to turn up at the time that I said would be, which I'd floored into 10 minutes of me talking about the day, and then there it is. I've got my guest, and we've had people turning up 7 minutes early. We've had people turning up 3 minutes late, and I put my trust in you. But here you are, 2 minutes late. What's your excuse?
Laptop wouldn't accept the link, and I had to do it on the phone. Sorry.
Did you use Google Chrome?
I did, but it's a work computer and it blocked it, so it wouldn't let me join the site for some reason. I don't know why.
So Queen's Club doesn't like Control the Controllables.
They're worried about you, Dan.
They worry. Now, well, it's great to have you. Sorry it was a little bit later than it's been, but I want to jump straight in because some people will know how good you were when you were younger. Some people will think, who the hell's this guy, right? And that's, people listening in. I've already bigged you up. You were a serious tennis player, and you were someone who, to win the under-18 European Championships on a clay court as a Brit, back in those days is almost unheard of. But there you are playing at Wimbledon. You've beaten Nikolai Davydenko in 5 sets.
Yeah.
You're obviously feeling pretty good about yourself. And then you get a chance to play some young Spanish dude who, well, Spanish players can't play on a grass court. I need you to talk to me about this. Did you know how good this young Rafael Nadal was? What was your expectations going into that match? And tell us about that whole experience.
Yeah, no, so obviously, had played well, the Davydenko match, I did play well. And it was a long match and it was good battle actually. And I managed to carve a win out of that one. And then, the second round playing Nadal, I knew of him because he was 17, but he was also top 50 in the world, right? So he wasn't a wild card. He hadn't qualified. He was main draw off his own ranking. Okay, so he's obviously a good player. But when you see, I mean, certainly back then, you would see a Spanish guy in the draw, you would think, you've got a pretty good shot on the grass, because they notoriously at that point they didn't really like playing on the grass that much. And yeah, but apart from sort of seeing his name in the ranking, I didn't know a huge amount about him at all. But yeah, so when I was playing, went on court, started playing, very, very, very quickly, you could see the guy was obviously world class. He was incredibly quick around the court. Funny enough, before we came online, I was trying to remind myself a little bit of playing that match. So there's a few YouTube clips that came out last year, because it was 20 years, I think, since I played in his first Wimbledon. So there's a few clips out there, and I was watching, and you can see, and I remember feeling this in the match actually, that it was like playing a guy like he had two forehands. You just couldn't get pressure. He would slice the ball when he wanted to slice the ball. It didn't really. I mean, I was watching some of these points. I'm actually moving the ball around bloody well, and I'm putting him under pressure. But he's just coming up with the shots and the passing shots time and time again, because he was just a bloody good athlete, and he moved incredibly well. And he was just ripping the ball around. I mean, he hit the ball really heavy, and like that, you could feel that when you were playing. He could hit the ball very, very, very heavy.
And when you play, I guess going back to 2003.
Yeah.
What was available from a scouting perspective? So we now I've had another meeting today. Like I'm big into my stats and data and video analysis and all of these things, but. And it's kind of mind blowing what we get now. Certainly on the singles side, you're having everything's being fed in. What's your memory of preparation for that match in terms of how much scouting you were able to do or not?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you were reliant solely on your coach, really. I mean, there was, and sort of speaking to a few other coaches and a few other people, there wasn't a great deal of video footage, or there wasn't like it is today. Like today on tap, you can look up matches, you can look people up, you can watch their last however many singles or doubles matches they played. But back then you didn't have it, and actually the only thing you could probably get was the stats from the last match they played at Wimbledon, for example. So I probably, if I remember rightly, probably had a look at what he did in the first round. But apart from that, there was just you really just trying to focus on what your game and executing what you could do really, and what was in your control, which was the big thing. And I definitely felt that when I was playing, like for me to play well, I had to just really focus on what I liked to do and not worry really too much about what they did. And if I did what I could do really well, then most of the time it would take care of itself. But it just, from a scouting point of view, and look, I know the detail you go to, Dan, now, and a lot of these coaches go to, which is brilliant. And it gives the players so much information, but we just didn't have that same thing back then. It wasn't the same.
And if I told you after that match, hey, don't worry, you've lost to a baby. I know he's only 17 years old.
Yeah.
He's going to end up having 22 Grand Slams, that guy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Would you have believed that?
No, I don't think you would have. I don't think anyone would have thought. I mean, he was a very good player, don't get me wrong. But I don't think anyone at that point would have said, this guy's going to be one of the best of all time. So it's just, he then shot, the next couple of years after that, he suddenly just took off. I mean, that was for him the move really. I'm actually thinking about a year's time. I think he maybe won the French Open. I can't remember, but he suddenly started kicking on quite quickly.
He won his first ever French Open, I think.
Did he win his first one?
I think he did.
I think he might have done.
Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, if you're listening, but I think Nadal won his first ever French Open.
Yeah.
Which would have been 2004, first ever French Open, Nadal.
Yeah.
Won the French Open on his tournament debut in 2005. So I wonder why he was that ranking in 2003. Maybe he was injured. But yeah, he won his first in 2005. He won 9 out of his first 10.
I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? When you think when you say it out loud, it's just amazing. I mean, amazing achievements. But yeah, when you play, you're seeing him, you're playing. Yes, he's a very good player, but at that point, you're not. I wouldn't have thought, he's going to win 20 or Grand Slams and and all the rest of it. So, but yeah, very quickly he suddenly took off and went sort of stratospheric, really.
Well, a story that you can tell to your own grandkids, because I would imagine in all of those years' time, we're still going to be talking about Rafael Nadal. This is a name that's going to be with us for a long time.
Yeah, he's going to be talked about for a long time. My kids they've watched a bit of the YouTube stuff, and actually they just find it quite funny that he just hits winners past me most, so they just take the mickey out of me a bit. But it's no, I feel it's great to have been part of that start of his journey, really. And I do remember the match, and it was good. I felt like I played actually pretty well, but he was just, like I said, he was so strong out the corners. His serve time actually, his serve didn't feel particularly threatening, but I think he was like, he was starting the point with it, and then he was doing the damage after, right? That's how it felt when you were playing him. But I think his serve improved a lot actually over the next few years. He certainly improved the pace and the accuracy of the serve. But he had. If I was watching some of those clips, he's got great hands, Rafa. He actually volleys well. He's got great touch and hand. He's an all-court player. Yes, he's got ground strokes, but he comes forward really well.
He was the highest percentage win rate coming to the net for like 10, 12 years in a row, I believe, on the ATP Tour. And I always thought, yes, he does have nice hands, but he had absolute clarity of patterns.
Yes.
So, but he also had fantastic timing. So he picked the right moment. And when he hurt, he then came in and then he played the short cross-court volley. And that was kind of the pattern he did. And there's nothing you could do about it because you were way off the court. He gripped the forehand, and then he's come in and he's just played the short volley, And it's coming. And I think there's a big lesson there as well, right? Like it's having that timing. I want to move you into before we do our quick fire round. I just want to. We've obviously got kind of historical event happened again today at Wimbledon, and it's kind of the story's been building. We've gone through it already on the show, but as a fellow Brit, as someone who was a very good younger player. I know Arthur's not a junior anymore, but talk to us about Arthur Ferry and his run at Wimbledon right now.
Incredible. I mean, I watched it today. I watched him play Dimitrov, which I thought was a great finish. I mean, he played an unbelievable super tiebreak. I mean, just flawless. I mean, what I'm impressed with the guy is that he's just not phased, actually. No. He's not phased at all. He's just playing the game how he wants, like how he plays and how he wants to play. He's got an all-court game. He's coming in, volleying. He's great from the back. He's quick. He's like almost playing squash shots out there and stuff. It's quite, he's moving brilliantly. It's great to watch. And he's British, which is even better for us. It's great to watch one of our own. And so, and today I just thought he got, the occasion might be a bit, he might get a bit overwhelmed by it or whatever, first quarterfinal, being a British player playing quarterfinals at Wimbledon is big. And, he's coming in as a wild card and there's all the, all that chat that's going on with last person to be, Goran and all that sort of thing. So I think today was seriously impressive. He did not flinch, didn't blink. He just stuck to his guns, played his game and just closed it out brilliantly. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Flawless performance.
And is he a flash in the pan or is he the real deal up at that ranking?
I think he's the real deal because he's had a few years of, playing on the tour and playing, tournaments. But he's had an unbelievable run here. I'll tell you where I saw a bit more of him actually was at Queen's. I managed to watch him there. I run the tennis at Queen's, so I'm there a lot, and so I managed to watch a bit of his tennis there, and I was impressed then. I mean, I thought he was just so solid from the back. Very few unforced errors. And tactically, just like we're just talking about coming forward, picking the right times to come in, and all those sorts of things. He's doing that well at the moment. He's picking the right balls to come in. I think his all court game is brilliant at the moment. Fantastic.
Breath of fresh air, really, in terms of how he approaches it, how relaxed. I heard earlier this evening, like he's decision making, even around how he's doing things off the court this week as well, is second to none. He's not messing around. He's just getting things. That's fine. You can imagine the details around the shoes, around the patches that he's wearing, around the press, around what he's doing in his day off, around there's so many different pieces that are being thrown at him. I know he's come off social media completely over the last couple of weeks. And it seems like he's got this real head on his shoulders, and that transfers on the tennis court as well.
Yeah, and I think what's really good with most of these players that they've got, most of the really good players, they've got a good group of people around them. His dad's there, who's an extremely successful chap. The coaches and people around him, they know what they're doing. They're keeping him,
and his mum. His mum was, I think, a top 100 player.
Yeah, she was a very good player. She's a member at Wimbledon as well. So he's got some really good people around him. He's not distracted, and they're not going to let him get distracted, I'm sure. And they're just probably, I think he said today after his match that he's just going to keep doing what he's been doing. He's not going to change anything. He's just going to do it. And I believe it. He seems like a very sensible. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think he's just doing what he does. He's just doing it brilliantly.
Can he beat Zverev?
I think he can beat Zverev. Actually, I think he could beat Zverev on grass. I mean, I think he's got. Yeah, well, I think he'll annoy Zverev, if I'm being honest. The way he'll, ball will keep coming back, and he'll make him play another shot, and he'll move him around, and I think he will. I think he's got a good chance. I really do. Against. If he gets through that one and he plays like a Djokovic or a Sinner, that's another challenge. But I think he's got a good shot against Zverev. I really do. I know Zverev's coming in off the back of serious confidence, winning the French Open. He's on a bit of a roll himself. But I think he's got the game to sort of annoy him a bit, actually. I think he could.
Could you imagine Ferry winning semi-final at Wimbledon on Friday, England beating Norway on Saturday?
Oh, be brilliant. Yeah.
Coach Dan Kiernan from Britain and Gabby Dabrowski, Louisa Stefani winning women's doubles on Sunday, and Arthur Ferry winning women's doubles. I mean, what are we getting for the UK?
Well, it could be an unbelievable 14 weekend, kid. It could stars align. If we can just get those stars aligned, it could be an absolute cracker.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think final. If he makes the final of Wimbledon, well, that'll be the hottest ticket in town, won't it? I mean, that would be massive. But
unbelievable. Wishing him all the best and all his team. Yeah. What a brilliant job they're doing, and I just love his temperament. I love how he's handling it all. Yeah. Are you ready? Quick fire round to Wimbledon style. Best Wimbledon memory as a fan.
Best Wimbledon memory as a fan. I think was the best live match that I ever saw was the '99 Wimbledon final against Agassi Sampras. It was honestly the best live tennis match I'd ever seen at that point, and I just can remember it so clearly because the shot making in that game. It was the year that Agassi just won the French Open. He beat Medvedev after being 2-0 up. His comeback sort of time, wasn't it? Yeah. He come in, he won the French, beat Medvedev in the final, then plays. You've got the all-time brilliant classic final, Sampras Agassi, and honestly, the shot making in that match was unbelievable. I mean, Pete was on. You know, when they both played their best, Pete
Yeah.
would often win, but he'd win most of the time because he just had that little bit more. And some of the running forehands that Pete hit and the serving that he'd come out with, and yeah, that was the '99 Wimbledon final for me. Was a magic match to watch. Actually, brilliant.
Finish the sentence. When I think of Wimbledon, I think of.
Strawberries and cream.
Who would you most like to play on centre court, past or present?
I would love to play Tim Henman on centre court. I'd love to.
You think
I'd
you
love
got
to
it?
play.
You think you got it now?
I think now because he'd rather play golf than tennis. So I think no, I don't know. He's so talented, Henners, that he could just pick a racket up and he'd be where he left off probably. But I'd love to have played Henners on centre court. It would have been a great experience, actually. Loved it.
What song would you like to walk out to on centre court?
Now that's a good question. Good question. Actually, there's a Goo Goo Dolls song that I quite liked the other day. I'm trying to remember the name of it, and I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, one of the Goo Goo Dolls songs, it would be great.
Your favourite ever Wimbledon champion and why?
Has to be Federer. And it's just the way that guy plays tennis or played tennis at Wimbledon. It was just unreal. I mean, I saw him win every match, every final he played in. I've watched the Wimbledon final forever, and I've watched every time he's won and lost. And he was just magic when you watch that guy play tennis. He was all, when you see someone who is just so natural. I mean, obviously he worked his socks off, right? But the guy was the most natural tennis player I've ever seen. Everything was just smooth, flowing, floating around the court. And he was a bit like, actually, we both used to play a lot with Stefan Edberg, didn't we? We used to hit with him practice quite a lot. And actually, his move, I always found when you played Stefan, his movement was just ridiculous. I mean,
Beautiful.
He was never late on the ball, was he? Ever?
No.
And
especially at the net.
At the net, oh my God, the guy moved like a gazelle. But it was just, but Federer had that same sort of feel. And it was that sort of effortless, sort of floating, never off balance, never late. He was brilliant to watch. Brilliant.
What is your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure, probably the lint balls.
Thought you were going to say strawberries and cream.
No, I cannot resist a lint ball. They are just absolute essence.
I'm with you. I'm right there with you. Yeah. What's one thing that you'd change about Wimbledon?
What would I change? I'm not sure I'd change anything, actually. I think it's brilliant.
That's a member speaking right there, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm also I love the tradition, right? So the theme at Wimbledon is tennis in an English garden, right? That's the theme. That's what they're trying to create, and I think they do it brilliantly. I mean, the way that
they do.
That way that place is dressed and it's done. I think it's brilliant. The only thing I would say is probably for the spectators on the outside courts, you'd probably want a little bit more room to manoeuvre on some of those outside courts. It's a little bit tight, difficult to watch on some of those ones. I mean, maybe you try and create some more room and like the sort of football flow and everything. But I just wouldn't change anything. I think, you and me and any British tennis player that, and I'm a member, I go there quite a bit. Every single time I walk through those gates, it feels magic. It doesn't matter how many times you do it, the place has got something special, and I wouldn't change anything.
What's your best advice you'd give to a young British player dreaming of playing Wimbledon?
I would say, and we've talked about this before, actually, Kierno, and I really believe it, is that you've got to be responsible for your own game. So when you're training, practicing, first of all, you've got to do more than everyone else, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is you've got to be responsible for your own game. And what I mean by that is you've got to be the one making decisions on things and what you're trying to achieve. And every single time we practice, and we used to do this, when we would play and all the rest of it. If you can go on the court every time you hit a ball and going for a practice session, you're trying to get better at something. And it might be a very simple thing, but you have to have a goal and an aim and everything. Otherwise, you're just going through the motions. And I think if you can be responsible for that, you're in a good. You're giving yourself the best chance, right? And look, not everyone can do it, but you've got to give yourself the best chance. You need to be responsible for your own game, definitely.
Love it. Who's winning the World Cup?
England.
It's coming home?
It's coming home, baby.
You heard it here first.
Oh.
Lee Childs, you're a star. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry that we pushed it back a little bit later this evening.
Don't worry, man. It doesn't matter. It's still hot, so it doesn't matter.
It is hot. Get those fans on and hopefully see you at Wimbledon over the next couple of days.
I will see you there. I'll be there. Yes, I'll be there, Kino. I'll look out for you.
See you there. We're going to kick you off and we're going to finish with our Dear Dan questions. So we're going to we've got a couple, but we'll see you soon. Thank you.
See you, Kino.
Speak to you soon. And good, Sophie, I'm going to get back to your question. Sorry, I started answering it. How much time do you have to watch other matches at the tournament when you're there with my doubles teams? The reality is not a lot of time. Most of tennis watching is work or friendship or, like the players that I've worked with before who I've got good relationships with. Obviously, you try and see the key moments. Certainly like to keep my eye on the matches, the big matches when I'm doing the podcast as well, so that I'm talking with some level of insight. Quite often I'll be watching the matches in the locker room. There's a locker room in the indoor tennis center. The people that know me know that I like to position myself over there. Quite a relaxed little area. And I'll always have the matches on in there, if I'm charging my phone or having a shower, taking it easy for, a little bit and taking the matches in. But pretty much it's a full day when you're coaching teams, if you're doing it properly and, you go through the full day and you're scouting the opponent and you're watching the film with your players and you're preparing obviously on the court, off the court, you're going through it all, tickets, there's many different elements to it that it does take up a lot of time as well. So I'm watching a lot of tennis, but most of it is kind of to add value to the teams for us to be able to be better prepared. And last question that I've got here from Stu, which is a lovely question. So thank you, Stu, for reaching out. Hi, Dan. I was on court 2 today for Gabby and Louisa's win. So dominant. It looked like they had so much fun along the way. Great to see. Can you talk about a dominant win like that? It was obvious to us after 5 minutes in that they had way too much for their opponents who were going to win comfortably. How did I see it? How do you strike the balance between keeping focus in a Grand Slam quarterfinal and having fun, which they were clearly doing? So, Stu, thank you for the support. I'm going to assume you were supporting Gabby and Louisa, but thank you. There was a nice crowd out there today as well. So thank you to everyone for supporting the team. There's a few different questions in there. I agree. I think it was a dominant performance today. On paper, that was a match where you probably would say it was quite a good first round draw. But fair play to Siskova and Peter, who made the way to the quarterfinals, have won 3 matches. So the fact that they've won 3 matches, they beat Heather Watson and Katie Bolt to first round. They beat a really informed team in Skok and Malakova in the second round, and then they beat Noskova, who's now in the semi-finals of the singles. They beat her in the third round with her partner Shramkova. So there's absolute respect for every opponent. It's a quarterfinal at Wimbledon. Full scouting was done, as we always do, and Louisa and Gabby came out ready to play today. And I think maybe the opponents felt a little bit overwhelmed with that, from very early. And I agree with you. Like you could feel quite early they were on top of them. But I also know with the tennis scoring system, it can change at any time. And again, Louisa and Gabby did a good job of just staying on it, kept on bringing that kind of offensive-minded tennis. And I think they had a little bit too much on the day for the opponents. It's not often you win 6-1, 6-2 in a quarterfinal of a Grand Slam. I've been lucky to be involved in many, and I think that's by far the least stressful one that I've had. So you take that, but I also know there's more challenging matches ahead, and there was more challenging matches to get there. And we just kind of, and this, I guess, links into the next bit, keeping the focus. It's trying not to think of it too much as a Grand Slam quarterfinal or semi-final or final. Our philosophy is trying to get better every day. You don't protect your way to win these events. It's about, we're just getting out there. We genuinely are trying to get better. Genuinely trying to go and gain things, playing to win mentality. Putting that type of tennis on the court, and let's see where it takes them. Louisa and Gabby are brilliant tennis players. They're a great team. They put that on there. I do believe that the byproduct is that they'll have lots of success together. And that will be the same attitude moving into the semi-finals. We're certainly not moving into, now we have a semi-final at Wimbledon and now we all need to get really uptight and nervous and become really serious. It's like, no, we do what we do. We want, and the girls are brilliant. We want to embrace these situations and also be very grateful for them as well. They're fit, they're healthy, they're out there playing at Wimbledon. What an absolute pleasure that is to do that, and doing something that they're very, very good at and they've worked incredibly hard to do. So enjoyment and trying to play in that way, or have that kind of light mindset whilst being ultra focused is really important. So long may it continue, and they'll another chance to have another go on Friday. But first, we'll enjoy tomorrow as well. Thursday is a chance to get on the practice courts and enjoy a bit of Wimbledon and a bit of downtime, and prepare to make sure no stone is unturned on Friday. And guys, thank you. Sorry it was late. Day 10, we're done. Day 11, we're moving fast. Business end is getting thick and fast. It's a pleasure to still be here. It's a pleasure to be chatting tennis with you guys. But until next time, I'm Dan Kiernan, and we are Control the Controllables.